Ladies and gents, welcome to Suji and this is Miscellaneous Miss Pride Tales for the channel of Sarcastic Proxon. Yeah. It's a Pride month. Here's a quick anthology of various tales that fit the spirits of season. I guess Pride Tales. Athena. Is Athena work here? You know. Athena might be there, I don't know. Artemis. Yeah, I don't know. Does asexual consider part of the Pride Tales? I don't know. Because they are not really gay, right? Artemis and Athena, they just don't have any interest in that. Yeah. Yeah, maybe. Remember, well, if you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe, check out the reaction, there's a link in the description, check out the cards, please check out the end cards, and yeah, let's go this one.
Happy Pride Month, everybody! That wonderful time of year where we appreciate the sparkling kaleidoscope of human variation that makes life so interesting. And despite what some rhetoric would suggest, most of that variation was not first invented in the 60s, the 80s, the 2000s, or the first time you heard someone use a term in public. All throughout human history and all over the world, people have been people for as long as that's been a meaningful concept. So today, let's take a quick look at an assortment of myths, legends, and stories.
This is after, right? Lots of people think that, you know, when this became a thing, like 60s, 70s, whatever, Pride Month, you know, Pride parades and whatever, people thought, this is the time where, you know, actually people start to become gay because it's a thing that started suddenly at that point. No. Since, you know, humans have been humans, there have been gay people. I mean, this is stupid. It's not just something that suddenly came to be.
Highlighting some of that majestic rainbow of experience on the global stage. Let's start in the early aughts BCE in the Han Dynasty of China. The story goes that Emperor Ai was taking a nap with his fellow politician and also super definitely boyfriend Dong Shan. Emperor Ai wakes up to find Dong Shan still sleeping like a baby, resting his head on Emperor Ai's extremely shiny and extremely expensive imperial sleeve. Rather than waking him up to move it, Emperor Ai opts to cut the sleeve off and leave his nap undisturbed. This was such an iconic display that apparently Emperor Ai's courtiers cut off their own sleeves as tribute to their relationship, and the cut sleeve became a euphemism for gayness overall.
Imagine if there was a question of was he gay or not. After doing this, everybody just looked at each other. Yeah, he's definitely gay.
You ever do something so sweet and so gay that people are still talking about it 2,000 years later?
That's just badass stuff.
Hiyaka, goddess of hula dancing, medicine, and sorcery, is spending her days on the beach with Hopoe, a dancer she's very close to. They share a relationship sometimes called Ikane, which is a term that technically means a close sexual relationship between men. So how does that apply to these ladies? Well, judging by the number of bosom friends, gal pals, besties, and chums in the modern translation, I think we can safely conclude they were married. But all is not well on the island as Pele summons Hiyaka and sends her on a quest to find her immortal husband. In turn, Hiyaka makes Pele swear an oath to protect her grove and her girlfriend. Pele agrees, but quickly becomes impatient, and as Hiyaka
I'll react to the Pele video from this channel. Yes, he's definitely angry, volatile, and just start to throw, you know, basically lavas at everybody as soon as they piss her off.
Struggles through her epic quest, Pele's temper flares and she begins chucking lava, destroying the island, burning the grove, and finally turning Hopoe to stone. Super not cool, Pele. I can't believe you'd contribute to the bury your gays trope like that.
What? So she asked someone to, you know, find her a perfect husband or whatever, and all that person asked that just look out for, you know, my other half or whatever. And just because she was taking a bit too longer, Pele became bored and killed the person that she's supposed to protect. I mean, how effed up is that, man? I mean, if somebody angers her, I understand that, but that was just effed up, man.
Meanwhile, in ancient Greece, we hit two opposing ends of the spectrum with Apollo and Athena. The only thing more extensive than Apollo's list of male lovers is his list of female lovers, and despite the stereotypes, most of those relationships don't actually end in tragedy. While a handful of his mortal lovers do turn into plants, most of them end up working out pretty well, receiving gifts of prophecy, immortality, godhood, all that jazz. In fact, during a year he spent in exile as punishment for killing a monster,
I can already imagine Apollo's pickup line at the bar. Hey, you want to become prophet?
He wasn't supposed to. Apollo worked as a herdsman to King Admetus, and according to Ovid, was so absolutely smitten with him that he wildly embarrassed the other Olympians by doting on the king like crazy. He also later helps Admetus win a lady's hand in marriage through a chariot race, which, combined with Poseidon doing the exact same thing for Pelops, suggests that this was something of a classic divine boyfriend/wingman move. And then there's Athena, noted as one of only 3 beings who Aphrodite holds no power over, the other 2 being Artemis and Hestia. And while Artemis hanging out with her huntresses and forswearing forever the company of men can be interpreted,
you guys gonna make out or what?
a few different ways, Athena is pretty explicit. In the Homeric hymn to Aphrodite, the singer goes out of their way to specify that Athena has no time for Aphrodite's shenanigans and instead
Plenty of boys, those ladies who can kick that ass. That's nice. Hey, have you heard of BDSM? No.
Instead of dealing with any kind of romantic shenaniganery, prefers to spend her time on the art of war, as well as the art of art in general. This trait of hers is so iconic and universally recognized that it contributes to her most famous epithet, Athena Parthenos, the Virgin
Now I
Athena,
understand.
aka what the Parthenon is named after. Personally, I think her Promachos epithet is cooler. It means she who fights on the front lines, except in the battlefield of love. Meanwhile, in Japan, let me introduce you to Inari, a very important Shinto deity of fertility, agriculture, prosperity, rice, tea, and like a bunch of other important stuff. Inari is a fox deity, but unlike your garden variety kitsune, they're more than just a trickster spirit. A full 30% of the shrines in Japan are dedicated to Inari, so suffice to say they are a serious big deal. Now sometimes they appear as a bearded old man riding a fox, sometimes as a young woman carrying sheaves of rice, sometimes an androgynous bodhisattva, and those are just the times they look like a human as opposed to dragon or giant spider. The general consensus is that Inari has no set gender and appears however they like, but unlike many shapeshifters, they don't tend to play pranks and mostly help people in trouble, like the swordsmith Munechika, who was ordered by Emperor Ichigo to forge him a sword.
See, that's the thing. Whenever somebody talks about God, I don't know why they have to give them human form. I mean, they don't have to give them any specific form. They could be shown as many different things because they're gods. If you try to make sense of them, there's some kind of energy. They're not really humans. I mean, sure, they interact with humans with human form, so it's easier. You can think it like that. But if you're going to show gods, why not use your imagination and just make them like they appear however the hell they want to appear. They could appear as a spider, as a fox, as a woman, as some man, some bearded old man. Why not? Who cares? They're God.
He can't do it without a smithing partner of equal skill, so he goes to Inari's shrine to pray for help, where he meets a mysterious young boy who tells him about the cool legendary swords of the past and promises to help him forge the sword. Surprise, surprise, the boy is actually Inari, and with their help, Munechika forges the blade Kogitsune Maru, Little Fox. Nice. Speaking of foxes, Japan also has the folktale of Tamamizu, a kitsune who's just minding their own business when they spot a young woman and fall instantly in love. The kitsune considers turning into a handsome young man and wooing her, but decides it wouldn't be good for her to marry a fox spirit, so instead they turn into a young woman of a similar age. She calls herself Tamamizu and gets herself adopted by a nice family. But her family notices she's pining a bit and asks if there's a special someone out there, but Tamamizu says she couldn't possibly get married with her low status, but she sure wouldn't mind being a handmaid to some beautiful rich girl, hint hint. So Tamamizu gets set up as the handmaid to the girl she likes, and they spend several years together, with Tamamizu occasionally dipping out for a secret fox-based adventure. But despite her happy and comfortable life, Tamamizu is still yearning something awful, and her poems are all sad. Then one day, the young woman enters a competition to find the most beautiful autumn leaf, and with the help of her fox siblings, Tamamizu scours the mountain and finds her a beautiful 5-color leaf that coincidentally has the entire Lotus Sutra printed on it. Obviously, she wins the competition, and the emperor himself catches wind of this gorgeous leaf and awards the girl's family tons of status and land. And eventually, he proposes to her. Tamamizu is of course fully supportive as their relationship advances, but she's kinda dying on the inside and ends up deciding to sneak away so her mistress can be truly happy with the emperor. She leaves her a sealed box with a letter in it, tells her that in these uncertain times anything could happen, and to open the box if she ever disappears, and then disappears. Whereupon the girl learns the truth about her companion and the tragic tale of Tamamizu.
Damn.
But we've got enough tragic tales.
That's, you see that kind of story in movies and TV so lots of time, right? Somebody actually likes somebody like that, but for the good of the person, they never reveals anything and just walks away, and later on the person realizes. That's just sad.
Of unrequited love. Let's hop over to Mesoamerica and get a look at Shoshipili, the Prince of Flowers, a much beloved god of summertime, partying, pleasure, creativity, and alcohol. How timely. Despite being possibly married to the alcohol goddess Mayahuel, and the only evidence for this, by the way, seems to be that they are seated near each other on a page of the Aztec Codex. Looks like the shippers are at it again. Shoshipili was the patron god of male homosexuality and temple prostitution. He also had a twin sister/female counterpart, Xochiquetzal, patron goddess of women and female prostitution, along with all the flowers and partying and art stuff. Xochipili was probably a holdover from the Toltec civilization, which apparently had a reputation among the other Mesoamerican civilizations for being rather more on board with that stuff than most. Even before the Spaniards showed up, the Aztecs and Inca had some pretty harsh laws about no bone zoning, but Xochipili was a-okay with all that jazz. At least, we think that's how it played out. Pre-colonial Mesoamerican religion can be pretty tricky to research. What with all the conquering and reconquering going on down there, there's kind of a lack of sources where a society describes itself in its own terms. The Aztecs seem to have thought of Xochipili as something of a personification of male weakness, an embodiment of everything wrong with the Toltecs that allowed the Aztecs to conquer them. And then the Spaniards showed up, stomped all over everything, and wrote about the Aztecs the exact same way. So all things considered, let's just be happy that Xochipili's positive vibe somehow survived 2 bloody conquests and 500 years of colonization.
Seriously.
Peace and love, baby. Now that's what I call flower power. Now there's loads more we could cover, but
I'm surprised she wasn't written over or changed somehow.
To keep the Whirlwind World Tour nice and concise, let's cap it here. Have a great Pride Month and enjoy all the rainbows. And I see your true color.
Fun fact, while it's fun to speculate about what modern labels would apply to these folkloric figures, I largely avoided doing so in this video because these identities are often steeped in and shaped by their social context. Yeah, okay. In short, it often doesn't translate directly to our modern delineations. Consider Artemis and how her deal could be interpreted several different ways. Yeah. And if you want, consider looking up Iphis and Ianthe and then notice how that story doesn't clearly map to any one modern label or our current understanding of gender and orientation. Every month is Pride Month if you allow yourself to be consumed by hubris. Yeah. I mean, that was so awesome, right? You know, that Artemis just sitting there and there's a guy behind the tree. Are you guys going to make out or something? That's just effed up. Yeah, there are, it's really surprising to see really, old mythologies has this kind of a gay type of gods and things. I mean, a few decades ago, people wouldn't have believed it. But, as, information becomes more accessible with things like YouTube, this channel and things, people learn and they realize there are lots of people who literally have this misconceptions. They, this gay pride and everything, anything gay related began really recently. And there's misconception like it started just either a few decades ago or at best few centuries ago. And I always like, man, what are you high? People have been gay since the humans began. What do you mean by it's recent or whatever? So yeah. Alright people, that was Miscellaneous Miss Pride Tales by the channel Sarcastic production. If you like my reaction, don't forget to like, subscribe. Check out the lyrics and there's a link in the description. Check out the cards with different playlists, check out the end cards, and I'll see you next time.